Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Tonight is one of the most exciting nights of the entire NBA season. It's the NBA draft. In this year's draft, the Milwaukee Bucks have the 31st pick, and I think that it's really interesting to consider who they could potentially take with this specific selection. In order to do this, I combed through a lot of the public draft boards available online, and I figured out which players could potentially be available for Milwaukee at the 31st pick. I eliminated every player that was a consensus top 25 guy, and from there, I built a big board of 26 players that I think the Bucks could potentially select. I've broken these players up into 4 tiers. So in today's video, I'm going to be going through each of those 4 tiers and talking about every player that I think will be an option for the Bucks to take at 31. Before I get into my draft board, I want to let you know how I go about ranking these players. I think that the most important thing to consider when making a draft selection in the NBA is who is the best player available, who has the highest amount of upside and is the most likely player to make a positive impact in an NBA rotation. However, that does come with one huge caveat. That is whether or not a player works in a team scheme. For example, the Bucks like to run a drop coverage scheme that requires their guards to be able to get over screens and a center who is able to protect the basket. If you're bringing in a point guard who really struggles navigating screens, that's probably not the best fit, as we saw this past season with DJ Augustin. In addition to that, if you have a big man who's not capable of protecting the basket, they're also not going to work, as we saw with DJ Wilson. Both of those 2 players got traded for a reason. In this video, I'm going to be looking for guys that both have a high level of upside and also work well in the Bucks scheme. Finally, please keep in mind throughout this video that not every single one of these players will be available when the Bucks make their selection. Probably 5 to 10 of these guys will be off the board. However, I think that it's important that we consider every player that could potentially be available, so that's why I've got some guys that are more likely to go in the first round than the second. I also want to point out that while I do think the Bucks should slightly consider a player's ability to play right away, it should not be the end-all be-all in their decision. No rookie is going to be able to impact playoff games at a high level unless they're taken in the first 5 picks, and the Bucks obviously do not have one of those selections, so I think they should simply look at taking the player who has the most upside 2 or 3 years down the line. For that reason, whenever I mention the type of role the player could play for the Bucks, I'm meaning down the line, not right now. Let's start by talking about my lowest tier of players, which would be tier 4. This tier consists of guys that I either think are going to be too long-term of projects for the Bucks to really consider selecting and developing, or they're guys who don't have a high enough ceiling to warrant being taken with an early pick in the second round. I won't touch on each of these guys individually, so if you want to read over the names quick, go ahead and pause the video, but I will talk about the guys that interest me most out of this group. At number 19, I have Franz Bleinberg, a 6'10" fluid athlete who's currently playing in Belgium. I like Bleinberg a lot, and I think that he's an intriguing long-term prospect, but it's going to take a long time before his body is NBA ready. For that reason, I don't think that the Bucks have the patience necessary to select him and let him develop, so I think he'd be much better off going to a team like the Thunder or the Rockets, who have a long-term rebuild going on and would have more patience letting Bleinberg grow. Another player I like out of this tier is Charles Bassey at number 22. He's a big man out of Western Kentucky who has a lot of traditional big man skills as a rim runner and rim protector, but I think that he's probably going to end up being a backup center in the NBA, and that's not someone that you should consider taking with the 31st pick. At number 25, I have Luka Garza. Garza was the player of the year in college basketball last season, so you'd think he'd be higher up on this list, but he's such a poor athlete and doesn't have great defensive skills, and for that reason, I think it'd be a huge reach to take him at 31. My next tier is tier 3. This tier consists of players that I think have really good shots at being long-term backups in the NBA. I wouldn't be opposed to the Bucks taking any one of these players with the 31st pick, but as you can tell by it being tier 3, I certainly do think there are better options. Once again, I won't talk about every player in tier 3, so go ahead and pause if you want to read through the names, but I will talk about a few of the more intriguing guys. At number 10, I have Herb Jones, who won the SEC Player of the Year last season at Alabama. He is a very intriguing wing prospect to me, who is one of the best defenders in this entire class. He can probably guard 1 through 4 at the NBA level almost immediately, and he also has some intriguing playmaking capabilities in the half-court offense. Jones's big flaw is his jump shot. It looks very poor, and his mechanics, while they are improving, still have a long ways to go before becoming NBA ready. I think that the jump shot is one of the biggest considerations you have to have when looking at a Milwaukee Bucks draft prospect, so for that reason, Jones is probably someone that I would pass on if I were the Bucks. At number 14, I have Tre Mann, a guard out of Florida. Mann is someone who's very intriguing to me as a pull-up jump shooter. He's maybe the best pull-up jump shooter in this draft class and shot over 50% on pull-up threes last season. However, I don't think that he has much potential as a passer or as a defender, and for that reason, I view him more as a scoring guard off the bench than a starter, so I think I'd probably pass on Mann as well. At number 15, I have Neemias Queta. Queta is one of the better big men prospects in this draft, in my opinion, as a run and jump big guy. If we weren't talking about the Bucks, who need floor spacing from the center position as a value, I would have Queta much higher, and I think that there are teams in the top 20 that should actually consider taking the big man out of Utah State. However, since it's the Bucks and you really need someone who can space the floor with three-point shooting at the center position alongside Giannis, I'd probably look to pass on Queta. This is where it starts to get very interesting for me. Tier 2 is a group of guys who I think have a chance to become long-term starters, but they have a lot of work to do still and could probably be considered project players. The first guy that I have in this tier is a player you might not have ever heard of, and that's not a huge surprise to me. Santi Aldama played last season for Loyola Maryland in the Patriot League, and that league obviously does not receive much publicity as it's one of the worst leagues in the entirety of college basketball. Even with that being said, Aldama is still a very intriguing prospect to me because he dominated that league like few people could. He put up 21.2 points and 10.1 rebounds per game while posting a 59.4 true shooting percentage. Aldama is a very productive big man scoring at all three levels, and he's especially good at shooting three-pointers, making him an excellent option to pair with Giannis Antetokounmpo in the front court long term as a stretch 5. Last year, Santi shot 36.8% from 3 on 5.1 three-point attempts per game and was even better on catch-and-shoot attempts, shooting 39% on that variety. Aldama is very good as a pick-and-pop big, as well as a spot-up guy in corners, and on offense, I don't know if you can find a much better pairing with Giannis. He's also a very good passer, posting a 15.5% assist rate, which is very high for a big guy, but Aldama is an even better passer than that. His assist rate would have been even higher if he had better shooting teammates around him. In addition to his offense, Santi is also a capable rim protector, posting a 5.8 career block rate at Loyola Maryland. If Santi can continue to add to his frame, I could see him being ready to play by around year 2 or 3, and he's got a chance to be a very productive big who pairs up quite well with Giannis. At number 7, I have JT Thor, who went to Auburn this past season. Thor is the definition of a project player as he's very raw. He averaged just 9.4 points and 0.9 assists per game this past season, while being quite careless with the ball as he posted almost twice as many turnovers as he did assists. He also has a long ways to go as a shooter, as he knocked down just 29.7% of his three-pointers on 2.7 three-point attempts per game. However, if everything clicks for Thor, he's got a chance to be an outstanding NBA player who you don't end up getting in the second round because of his talent. Thor stands 6'9" and has a 7'3" wingspan. He's also one of the youngest players in the draft, as he has an August 26th, 2002 birth date. That makes him almost as young as I am, which is definitely mind-blowing. Thor is a long-term prospect who's going to take a lot of time to develop, but I think that his upside is good enough that you would really think about taking him if you are the Bucks, even if he isn't a great fit. At number 8, we have an even younger player in Joshua Primo, who last season at Alabama had a very small role. However, in that role, he flashed a very intriguing pro skill set as he was a 3-and-D wing. He made 38.1% of his three-pointers on 3.8 three-point attempts per game, and shows potential to be even better than that as he was around 44% on catch-and-shoot threes last season. If he's playing on a team with big wing shot creators like Giannis and Chris Middleton, he's going to have plenty of those catch-and-shoot threes available to him. He's also a solid team defender with a 6'5" height and a 6'9" wingspan that bodes very well for him continuing to be a high-level defensive player. That's about it with Primo, though. He's not very good on-ball defense as he's only 190 pounds, but he's very young, as I said before. There are people that would slot him higher than this because they think he has shot creator potential. I don't really see that with Primo, but if he does develop it, hey, this is an even better pick than I see it, as I view him more as just a 3-and-D wing than any sort of creation player. At number 9, I have Josh Christopher from Arizona State. I talked about Christopher in my guard video a couple days ago, but I'm pretty high on his eventual ceiling. I think he could become a very high leverage starter as a 3-level scorer if he can ever figure out how to shoot the ball. He's already a very good finisher at the basket, particularly in transition, but he really can't shoot. He shot just 30.5% from 3 last year and 31.9% on mid-range jumpers. Those are both very poor metrics, and in order for him to really reach his ceiling, he's definitely got to get better as a shooter. He's an impactful defender, posting a 2.7% steal rate and 1.9% block rate, but when he's off the ball, he's kind of lackadaisical and doesn't show much of an interest in playing much off-the-ball defense. He's got to improve in the shooting and his attentiveness on defense, but if he can do so, he's got a high ceiling, and I definitely think about him here if I were the Bucks. Finally, we've made it to my tier 1. These are the players that I think have a ceiling of being a starter in the NBA and a floor of being a back-end rotation player. No matter what, I think that the Bucks are getting someone who's going to be able to play for them at some point on their rookie contract with this pick, and so for that reason, these are my 5 favorite guys that could be available for the Bucks at 31. At number 5 on my big board for the Bucks at 31, I have Filip Petrusev, who played last season for Mega in the Adriatic League. Petrusev comes into this draft as one of the most decorated players, as 2 seasons ago, he won the West Coast Conference Player of the Year en route to leading Gonzaga what probably would have been a 1 seed had the season not been canceled due to the oncoming pandemic. This past year, Petrusev left Gonzaga and started his professional career overseas in the Adriatic League. He won the Adriatic League MVP and was one of the most productive players in the league as he averaged 23.6 points per game and grabbed 7.6 rebounds per game. Petrusev was an excellent scorer as he could score at all 3 levels, especially at the basket where he shot 69.3% at the rim on his non-post-up shots. I think that means he's probably going to be a very good pick-and-roll threat who does a great job of rim running and finishing at the basket. He also shot very well from beyond the arc, which is, as I've mentioned frequently, a big key if you're going to be a big man playing alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo. This past year, Petrusev shot 41.9% from beyond the arc on 3 three-point attempts per game. He's going to be able to space the court when Giannis is out there and provide some offense as a rim runner when Antetokounmpo is on the bench. I think that Petrusev could also work well in the Bucks' drop coverage system as he averaged 1.1 blocks per game last year. He's not going to be able to guard on the perimeter whatsoever, so I think that he'd likely be stepping into more of a Brook Lopez role as someone who's dependent on the Bucks playing the drop than someone like Bobby Portis was last year, who was scheme versatile, but I still think Petrusev can play at a high level. His defense will probably never be above average for the NBA, but he has good instincts and does a really nice job positionally, so I can at least see him pushing that average marker, and if he can do so, I think his offense takes him to being an above average center, and that's someone who I really think would be a nice pick and a nice fit for the Bucks at 31. The number 4 player on my board is Bones Hyland from VCU. Hyland is straight up one of the best shooters in this year's NBA draft. He shot 39.9% on 6 3-point attempts per game during his 2 years at VCU, and those were not exactly easy attempts. A high volume of Bones' 3-point looks came off of the dribble, as he was one of the best pull-up jump shooters in the entirety of college basketball this past season. He's also capable of pulling up from deep Dame Lillard, Steph Curry type range, as he shot 36% on 3-point shots from 27 feet or further out. This kind of long-range shooting means that he's going to be able to run some very high pick and roll and really space out the defense at a high level. I could see him and Giannis Antetokounmpo establishing a fantastic pick and roll combination, with Bones being able to make defenses pay for acknowledging Giannis's gravity to such a high extent with his pull-up 3-point shooting. Hyland also is very good in the mid-range, where he shot 40%, and at the basket, where he shot upwards of 60%, so there is some potential for him to become a 3-level scorer here. He definitely needs to improve his mid-range, but he showed promise of a floater during his past season at VCU, and if he can make that a more reliable shot, I think it could be a very valuable weapon for him. The finishing at the basket is a bit of a surprise for me, but Hyland is very creative, and he's able to finish over rim protectors despite being super skinny at just 175 pounds. In addition to his finishing, the other area where this hurts Bones is on the defensive end of the court. He struggles as an on-ball defender at times because the opposition can kind of bully him since he's so skinny. Hyland needs to put on some weight in order to become a more viable on-ball defender. He also struggles to navigate screens a little bit because of the slight frame, and that's very important for the Bucks' defensive scheme, so he needs to get stronger in that capacity as well. However, Hyland is still a solid defensive player, as he's very active off the ball, posting a 3.5% steal rate that is among the best of the players that I evaluated over the past couple of weeks. Hyland uses his 6'9" wingspan to its best advantage, as he's great at jumping into passing lanes and creating transition opportunities for himself, where he is great at pulling up for transition 3-pointers. On pull-up transition 3s this past year, he shot 49%, which is excellent when you consider the difficulty of those shots. Hyland is more of a 2 than a 1 for me, as I don't really think he'll be able to run the point, considering he had a negative assist to turnover ratio this past year. But regardless of that, I love Hyland's game as a pull-up jump shooter, and I think that he has more defensive upside than someone like Tre Mann, who's similar at that jump shot, because Hyland has that excellent 6'9" wingspan. I'm really excited for Bones, and he's definitely one of my favorite fits for the Bucks. I could have had him as high as 1 or 2 on this list, so that tells you just how much I like Hyland. Slotting in one place ahead of Bones on my Bucks big board is Joe Wieskamp. I went back and forth on these two players at 3 and 4 for a long time, but I ended up giving the Iowa product the advantage because he plays a more valuable position on the wing as opposed to Hyland, who is a combo guard. Wieskamp is another one of the best shooters in this entire draft, and in his particular case, I would argue that he is the single best movement shooter in this group. He does a fantastic job of sprinting off of screens and using his excellent footwork and quick release to get jump shots off over contesting defenders. Wieskamp shot a ridiculous 46.2% from beyond the arc this past season on 5.1 3-point attempts per game. That is his career high, but it's not that far ahead, as he shot 41.2% over his 3 seasons at Iowa from beyond the 3-point line. He is genuinely a terrific floor spacer, and that is going to make him a terrific pairing alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton if the Bucks do wind up going in this direction. As I mentioned, he's a great movement shooter, and that makes him a true weapon on the offensive end of the court. You can run plays for him coming off of pin downs that are going to generate a whole lot of points because of his ability to make defenses pay. That's also going to open up so much more extra spacing for strong side actions, and I would be super excited about this offensive fit for the Bucks. I also think that Wieskamp can run some pick and roll. He's not a very good passer, as he had just a 10.4% assist rate at Iowa this past season, but he does have a fantastic pull-up jump shot in the mid-range, and I think that that could be a very real weapon for him, particularly in a pick and roll with Giannis, who has so much gravity that he could probably end up having some mid-range jump shots, and Wieskamp is going to knock those down at a very high level. The bigger question with Joe is definitely his defense. He doesn't do a whole lot well on that end yet, but he certainly does have some tools. Wieskamp was one of the best performing athletes at the Combine, ranking in the top 10 in multiple key categories, including the vertical jump where he leaped 42 inches. That is an incredible number for a 3-and-D wing, and it definitely bodes well for Wieskamp moving forward, as he also has a very good frame at 6'7" with a 6'11" wingspan. He needs to put on a little bit more weight to truly guard some of the wings in the NBA, but I do think that he has some upside there, and that paired with his fantastic skill on offense makes him one of the best options for the Bucks with the 31 pick, and I think he could be a very high-level role player for this team early on in his career. There are now only 2 players remaining, and both of them happen to be point guards. The penultimate player on my Bucks big board is Deuce McBride from West Virginia. McBride profiles as a 3-and-D point guard, and that could allow him to become a very high-level role player. Let's start by talking about his defense. McBride is genuinely one of the best on-ball defenders in this entire draft class, rivaling players like Jalen Suggs and Davion Mitchell, who are consensus top 10 picks in no small part due to their on-ball defense. McBride does an excellent job of getting under the skin of his opponents and is terrific at putting pressure on them and not allowing them to get to their spots. He's also very good at navigating screens, which will bode very well for him in a Bucks drop coverage pick and roll defense system that requires their guards to be able to fight over screens and prevent players from being able to get open shots from beyond the arc. McBride should be able to contest shots from the rear at a very high level because of his excellent frame with a 6'2" height, 200 pounds, and a 6'9" wingspan that should allow him to guard 1 through 3 and be a genuine defensive playmaker as he was at West Virginia. He posted a 3.1% steal rate and a 1.7% block rate over his 2 years with the Mountaineers. Both of those rank extremely high, especially that block rate for a 6'2" point guard. McBride blows me away on the defensive end of the court and reminds me of a current Milwaukee Buck in Drew Holiday. In addition to his high-level defense, McBride is also a very, very strong offensive player, particularly as a shooter. He made 41.4% of his three-pointers this past season on 3.8 attempts from beyond the arc per game. That includes a 27 for 56 mark on catch-and-shoot threes, which is the type of shot that he would be taking most frequently in an offense where he'd be playing off the ball alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday. McBride is also a solid scorer from the mid-range and a very good playmaker out of the pick and roll. This past season, he averaged 4.8 assists with a near 3-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. McBride is one of the best players that could potentially be available for the Bucks at 31. I think it's unlikely that he falls to Milwaukee, and I'd consider him to be pretty darn close to a lottery talent in this class. He, along with my top player on this board, are going very underrated throughout this process, in my opinion, and I'm very hopeful that one of them falls to Milwaukee at 31. I deliberated between these two players for a long time, but at number 1, I ended up going with Illinois product, Ayo Dosunmu. Ayo is a tremendous defensive player who, similar to McBride, I view as a great scheme fit in the Bucks' defensive system. The biggest reason for this is Dosunmu's positional size. He stands 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan, and that should allow him to flourish in the switching system that the Bucks frequently use in the postseason, as I think that Dosunmu is fully capable of guarding 1 through 3 and could even switch onto some small ball 4s. In addition to his propensity propensity to guard in the Bucks switching system, I also think that he could thrive in their drop coverage system that they run more frequently during the regular season. The biggest reason for this is that Dosunmu does a great job of fighting through screens. He's also great at rear view contests where you can use his plus wingspan to knock away shots from behind. In addition to his fantastic defense, Dosunmu is also a very high level offensive player. The biggest reason why I had him rated over McBride here is because of his shot creation. This past season, Ayo averaged 20.1 points per game on a 56.6 true shooting percentage. He is a great scorer out of pick and roll, and he's particularly great in the mid-range where he shot 46% this past season. Dosunmu also does a nice job of getting to the basket out of the pick and roll and is very capable of finding cutters, especially the guy who sets the screen and is then rim running. This should allow Dosunmu to establish a great pick and roll chemistry with both Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez, similar to what he had with Kofi Cockburn as a lob threat this past season at Illinois. We could see a lot of highlight reel passes from Dosunmu to Antetokounmpo or Lopez, and that would be one of the biggest things I could look forward to if this were to truly happen in the draft. In addition to being a great player out of pick and roll on offense, Dosunmu is also terrific in transition. He's able to use his athleticism to get to the basket and is a crafty finisher around shot blockers in transition as well. He's also very good at finding open players both under the basket and at the three-point line when he's playing with a head of steam, and the Bucks are one of the best transition teams in the league as they got out in the break more than anyone else this past season, so this is another area where Dosunmu would be a great fit. The biggest reason why people don't view Ayo as a first-round pick and why he could potentially drop to the Bucks at 31 is because he's an inconsistent three-point shooter. He's sitting at just 34% from beyond the arc for his career at Illinois, but that was a significant uptick this past season as he shot 39% from beyond the arc this past season, and even though he does have some funky form, I don't see much of a reason not to buy him becoming a plus shooter at some point in his career. Overall, this is the makings of a fantastic player who is capable both as a shot creator, a playmaker, and a high-level defender. I think that Dosunmu might be one of the 10 best players in this year's draft, so it's pretty crazy to me that he could potentially fall to the Bucks outside of the first round. If he's available, I will be so happy if the Bucks grab him, and it's impossible to predict that what's going to happen, but this would be the best case scenario for Milwaukee, in my opinion. Thank you all for watching the entirety of today's video. When it's all said and done, I probably will have put upwards of 25 hours into researching, writing, recording, and editing this video, so I certainly do hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. Also, let me know in the comment section down below who you think the Bucks should draft with the 31st pick. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.